To another episode of In Swine Versation, a multi-generational farm in the making with Thomas Titus. Welcome to the program, Thomas.
Oh, thank you. Certainly appreciate being on here again with you guys. I had the opportunity last spring to sit down and be part of one of the recordings here. So it's always nice to be back on with you, Jim.
Yeah, I saw you at the World Pork Expo and thought there's a lot to talk about here. So you're a hog farmer in Illinois, and due to Prop 12 and a combination of labor and economic challenges, you're liquidating and repurposing your business model. Can you talk about that, Thomas?
Yeah, certainly. And so I mean we are a small, 600 sow farrow to finish farm, and so I mean we made the tough decision a number of months ago that with some of the things that were coming down the pipeline from Proposition 12 transitions we might potentially need to make there, building costs, remodeling costs, and labor challenges. I mean, it just seemed like those continue to surmount. And so we made the decision to liquidate the south side of what we do. Still plan to continue to raise some pigs from wean to finish, and still continue to utilize and maximize the barns and spaces that we have available. Because I mean, I farm with my wife's family, and or farmed with my wife's family, and I mean, we're a multi-generational family farm, and where we've got a number of young kids that are running around and certainly enjoy the farm life. And so beyond pigs on our farm, we also raise some corn and some soybeans as well as part of our farm.
So the model before was a farrow to finish.
Yep, we were a 600 sow farrow to finish, and so we had multiple sites, an off-site breed to wean facility, and then we also had our nursery to finish at another location. So we decided to make that transition, and we'll repurpose some of those barns to be able to continue to utilize them in different ways. But at the same time, I mean, we have some of those facilities that needed some extensive remodeling costs to get up to current trend. And I mean, you have to think about the reinvestment into those buildings, and does it make sense or not from a financial standpoint. And so some of the buildings we may discontinue use, but I mean, we certainly plan to continue to be part of the pork industry, which we have been a part of for decades and are very passionate about.
So there's a number of factors that made you pivot. What was the final straw?
I mean, the biggest challenge, I mean, here is labor, sourcing local labor, and even utilizing some of the foreign options. I mean, it's just a challenge to find that level of capacity and that level of quality that we truly needed for our farm. And so we decided that was kind of the straw that broke the camel's back in a sense. And I mean, you begin to look at other economic indicators and challenges that just kind of added to the support of the decision, and making sure that was the right thing to do for us. And so I mean, that was the decision that we made at the end of the day. I mean, but that's what we felt was best for the families involved with us.
So as we talked about at the top of the show, I saw you at the 2023 World Pork Expo. I could tell the face, but I didn't know how tall you were. So you're really towering. You're on a mission. How was the show for you, Thomas?
Illinois Pork or World Pork Expo, excuse me, was great. The sentiments were good, even though the economic challenges at that point in time during World Pork Expo were mounting and very concerning. I mean, since then we've had about a $30 rally from those lows. And sentiments in MPIC were relatively positive as well. I mean, outlook is still very concerning. However, if you begin to look at supply, price structure, input costs, I mean, we need to have a really good corn crop before input costs get a little bit more moderated. And so, well, I mean, some of the things I saw out at World Pork Expo, I mean, there was a lot of new technology out there utilizing various levels of artificial intelligence, Proposition 12 compliant equipment and things like that. But probably what I thought was the most interesting was the pig counter that they utilized as pigs are going through chute. They have some technology that they're able to accurately count those animals and count pigs that pass back and things like that. And so once things like that become mainstream, that'll really improve. I mean, counts that are going into barns, counts that are potentially coming out of barns, and counts at packing facilities as well. And so I thought that was pretty interesting.
Can some of the technology possibly help with labor, do you think, or is it two different things?
No, there's certainly some technology that can help with labor. At the end of the day, I mean, you still have to have that hands-on approach with the care for the animals, but there are some of those more mundane tasks that there is technology that's advancing that might be able to be utilized to complement the workforce and eliminate some of the needs for some of those daily tasks that are very, very monotonous. And so there's some opportunities there. But at the same time, at the end of the day, I mean, to properly care for those animals, you've got to have that personal human touch to make sure that those animals' needs are met on a daily basis.
So you just got back from the NPIC in Wisconsin. I know the family, you told me your family enjoyed the water park. You were busy working. Now, talk to me about sustainability in our business and the industry. Did you learn some of that at the NPIC?
Certainly, I mean that was one of the key topics of the conference, and I mean you can sometimes kind of look at sustainability in multiple ways, and from a sustainability standpoint, it can be from a carbon standpoint or how your farm operates, or at the same time being able to sustain your farm to the next generation. I mean those multiple sentiments were shared at MPIC, and so I mean beginning to look at input costs and cost per sow and capital and things like that. I mean, there was a number of good presentations and breakout sessions that covered the gamut of things from carbon credits to Prop 12 compliance to the financial status of the industry. And so, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you can look at sustainability within our industry. And I think this year's MPIC really kind of covered the gamut of it. The organizers did an outstanding job of making sure all sides were represented and had an opportunity to have those discussions and conversations.
And what makes that event most unique?
Well, I personally feel what makes that event most unique. I mean, it's in a great location. It kind of combines the family element with it, but at the same time, I mean, it's really focused upon the progression of the industry. And so, I mean, you have the opportunity to be exposed to a number of industry representatives, but at the same time, the focal point is on sustainability of our industry. I transitioned a portion of what I do or what my daily routine is to working with Partners for Production Agriculture and Ever Ag Company. And so, I mean, we were represented well there. I mean, but at the end of the day, from a sustainability standpoint, I mean, without maintaining these relationships and continuing to ensure that the viability of our industry, I mean, ag industry or the swine industry side of things won't have a job either. And so it's a crucial time to be able to have those conversations with producers, learn more about our industry, learn more about the changes that are going on. And so, I mean, MPIC is just a great event that's hosted by that organization group.
So your roots are deeply planted in 4-H and FFA. So can you talk about building character in the show barn?
Oh, certainly. So, I mean, I grew up raising and exhibiting pigs, and I mean, here in Illinois, and so I mean, that's one thing that my wife Brianne and I were extremely passionate about to be able to share with our daughters Reagan and Lakin. My nephews are also involved within the animals that we exhibit as well, because we kind of carry on a tradition of RBC Chesters, and really enjoy what the attributes our children gain from raising exhibition livestock. And so, I mean, it's an opportunity that not too many kids, especially even in a rural community, that get that opportunity or that experience to raise animals, care for animals, and I mean, work with them to get them prepared for show. And so, I mean, it really builds some very important core character values that we feel our kids can't attain anywhere else than in the barn. So even as we do kind of transition some of the things that we do here on our farm, I mean, we still have 100% intent on our kids participating in those activities. And once you get pork production in your blood, it's really hard to kind of get it out. So we'll certainly continue that with the girls going forward.
What's an example of a core characteristic value that you think is important through that?
I mean, responsibility and accountability. I mean, that's one of the biggest things that a young person can really take away from it. And then, I mean, one of the number one fears of most people on the globe is public speaking. And so, by participating in youth exhibition of livestock, I mean, there's times where it forces you to communicate with others and have uncomfortable conversations, have a conversation with your veterinarian, talking about how to best care for your animal, or working with your peers And so, I mean, some of those core character values of responsibility, accountability, and just the ability to communicators are things that I feel that are really developed well within the barn.
In 2019, you were nominated for America's Pig Farmer of the Year. Can you talk to me about the process, what you learned, and what it meant to you?
And so I was nominated as a candidate for the Pig Farmer of the Year a few years ago, which is getting further and further ago than what it seems like. But it was a great opportunity. Was able to meet some of the best pork producers from within the United States that were vying for that same award. And so, I mean, it was hosted by the National Pork Board that put it on. And so, I mean, have been very involved with that organization over the last decade. And so, I mean, felt very honored to be able to represent Illinois and participate in that program. Unfortunately, I wasn't selected as America's Pig Farmer of the Year, but being one of the 4 finalists is certainly something to be really honored by. And so, I mean, the process, I mean, we went through some application interview process, and really what it came down to is, I mean, we had some panel discussions and some conversations and some training that fall in Chicago. And so it was a great experience. I mean, it was another way to build relationships and build networks that'll continue to be valuable for the rest of my life.
Do you have an example in the swine business where adversity or being humbled has then correlated to success?
Yeah, I most certainly do. I mean, I'm sure that I'm not the only one that has a 2020 humbling story where it seemed the wheels fell off the proverbial wagon there in March and April last year, and you really had to pivot and become resourceful. And so, given our experience and our relationships that we've built within the exhibition or the show side of what we've done over the last 10 to 20 years, we had a number of relationships that we're able to rely upon throughout the country. And so, I mean, our size is a little bit different than some. And so being able to move some smaller groups of feeder pigs or market hogs did make an impact for us. And we just knew that we needed to make a hole somewhere in that spring of 2020. And so we sent pigs to 14 different states, and a lot of that was through our relationships of showing livestock. I mean, with people that we worked with, and there was demand in geographies that generally don't have a significant amount of pork available. I mean, you went to the grocery stores and the shelves were empty. And so, I mean, we were able to market animals to 14 different states. And it also developed a little bit different business opportunity for us as well from a meat standpoint. And so we started selling some branded meat that we have, and also, I mean, just whole hogs through local processors. And so that was a different business model that we hadn't really explored significantly prior to that, but we continue today. And so that was a challenging time. There was a lot of adversity that we faced, but in hindsight, it wasn't nearly as bad as what it seemed like at the time. And so we were certainly humbled in the beginning, and we were very fortunate from the community support and support from people across the country that we were able to move some of those animals too.
So what about some hot topics in the swine industry? I know you've got a few things on your mind, Thomas.
I mean, you go into any conference, I mean, World Pork Expo, NPIC, Illinois Pork Expo, I mean, any of those conferences, or even your state association's board meetings. I mean, one of the hot topics of conversation is always labor and challenges around that. And so, I mean, one unique thing that we're doing here within Illinois is a resource guide for foreign labor. And it covers everything from onboarding to housing, attaining social security numbers and driver's license, to just, I mean, some basic necessities to consider that those new employees might need. And so here in Illinois, we have partnered with a group out of Tennessee to help with the application process through Illinois Pork Producers Association for members only, to be able to utilize this service at a discounted rate. And so I've spoke with this group, and I mean, there's great opportunities here for in some of those more labor challenged markets and geographies. And I would be lying if I didn't say that we were kind of going down that same path too, and having some of those conversations with labor on our farm, and looking into how we might be able to best utilize some of these visa employees that are looking for opportunities here in the United States that do a great job and have an education in animal husbandry and animal care. And so Like I said, labor challenges are a big issue, but I mean, Illinois Pork Producers Association is always looking for opportunities to help alleviate some of those challenges. And the resource guide is just one of those tools that we have. One other one, I mean, you could walk into those exact same conferences here recently, especially, and the word Proposition 12 has been spoken quite frequently and quite consistently. I mean, we did have a conversation, Jennifer Tyree, our executive director here in Illinois, and Chad Lehman, our current president, where they're able to share their concerns with Senator Durbin last week. And so, I mean, they had a very progressive conversation around Proposition 12 and finding ways around this challenge with some creative thinking that's kind of in line with what the Supreme Court's decision was. And Durbin specifically said, I mean, whatever we do is scientific and rational and reasonable in terms of producers across the U.S. And so, I mean, as you see a few more of these begin to pop up with question 3, and I believe there's a similar type of bill to Proposition 12 introduced in New York here recently, that we work with our legislators and we make them aware of our challenges that we're faced with here in Illinois, even though it's a product that's going to another state. And so it's conversations like that with Senator Durbin here in Illinois that will prove to be very valuable as we continue to progress through this transitionary time.
Out of the 3 topics, what keeps you awake most at night between the 3?
What keeps me awake most at night between the 3? Well, I think I only listed 2. I mean, whenever we were at full capacity, it was certainly labor and who was going to show up that next day, I'd say.
So
that was always a big concern.
Because it's the people that make things run, and you need to have that reliability, and it's still a challenge still, Thomas.
I mean, that's exactly right. I mean, as I tell people, I mean, pigs are the easy part of what you do. It's sometimes the people that are the challenge. And so, I mean, finding the right people that share your passion and have that level of responsibility and accountability is extremely important on your farm. And whenever you lose a integral cog or someone calls in sick, it just makes things a little bit more challenging. And so, I mean, there's been plenty of nights that went to bed where I knew or I had a feeling that we might be short an employee the next day. It always increases a little bit of a level of anxiety and angst that certainly is undue. But I mean, there's certainly opportunities, like I said before, with utilizing the Illinois Pork Producers Association resource guide and that partnership with an organization to help bring in some additional labor. There's some opportunities that are out there that can be utilized. And so hopefully producers, I mean, within Illinois and across the US are able to work with those local organizations and industry representatives to make sure that their labor needs are being met and they're able to care for their animals appropriately.
So you're part of a multi-generational farm in the making. Where was the farm? Where are you currently, and what's the vision in the future?
And so, I mean, currently, we were a farrow to finish farm, and now we're going to be looking more towards a wean to finish type of model in terms of pork production. But my brother-in-law Brett, I mean, and his father Dave, I mean, they manage the grain side of what we do, and so we raise corn and soybeans and primarily. And so, I mean, we'll continue to look at opportunities where we can either grow or diversify our business, just so in the event that our children do have a passion and want to come back and farm, we can provide them with that opportunity. And so we always have to be conscious of what those opportunities may look like, so we can either do something a little bit different or expand our land base to create those opportunities for our children.
Thomas Titus, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you very much. I appreciate you, Jim.